In the eons that Kholek Suneater, the mountain god, has roamed this planet, he has never found a race he enjoys squishing more than the High Elves. Have you heard of them? It's not official Games Workshop lore, but I feel like every other battle I post with this towering Terminator is him beating down on the Azure. Today will be no exception in an insanely close and entertaining battle that has been on my hard drive for a really long time. Eltharion and Stormwing will have to face down the mighty Starcrusher in a hyper-elite Chaos Death Star in what I believe was a tournament match between Tequila Sunset on the Elves of Yvresse and I Am Sir Groot, representing the Ruinous Pantheon. Tequila Sunset has his own Total War channel, link will be down below, and he's going to showcase some really interesting Eltharion play in a style that I personally never used him in. Soul Quench is a spell that I skipped throughout all of Warhammer 2's life cycle, so I would normally just kind of Hand of Glory, help him in duels and Apotheosis spam, but this spell has become surprisingly good, clearing out elite infantry in the switch to Immortal Empires. White Lion Chariots, Silver Helms, Swordmaster, Silvern Guard, and a few archers are going to spread the field, delay the melee grind as much as possible, and focus fire anything without shields. On the other side of Galbaraz, there is a mean meat-grinding machine, and if you're tasting a bit of brass and blood on your tongue, it's because there's a distinct cornate flavor oozing out of every pore. 3 Chosen to Khorne dual axes, absolutely terrifying in CQB, bolstered by the Knights of the Brazen Throne and their Murderous Charge special rule. Chaos Sorcerer with Burning Head, Fire Cloak, and stroking his Forbidden Rod, cackling, while the Tempest, the Mountain, does his usual romping and stomping with that bonus for Large Hammer. Summoners of Rage, Dragon Ogres, be the anti-Cav and SEM contingent. Very good against Dragon Princes, Chariots, and Soaring Griffins, if they can manage to get us around and tie them down. Those are the builds, and expect endless aggression from the Chaos Army as they look to close the gap as quickly as possible. Now, there's a couple ways to handle this whole army comp, and I'm not sure yet which way he'll choose to do so, because ideally he'd like to just match up with each Silvern Guard with the Chosen and just overwhelm them, cut them down, spread the field. With a lack of halberds and only a few bonus versus large units and a really elite army, it might be better to keep the formation high and tight around Kholek to limit that chariot action, which will in turn mean the melee grind is a bit slower, which actually favors the elves. So we'll see what they do. Tequila Sunset wants to delay and deny as much as possible. Skirmish, of course, giving the Soul Quench and archers time to do their work, and in fact, you can already see something brewing with Eltharion in the skies out on the flank. In the center, those Skull Crushers are extremely useful against the High Elves. They shred through infantry in seconds flat and quickly get them past that martial prowess threshold, at which point spears and archers get Thanos snapped into dust. But speaking of deletion, of being evaporated, here is the Eltharion secret weapon, magic missiles from the flank on Chosen, of all things. Soul Quench can, say the line, any pride, say it, penetrate multiple models like Leonardo DiCaprio, as long as they're under 25, and that's immediately 11 dead Chosen, straight down the length of their formation. Really nice cast, great positioning and idea from Eltharion there. Can't say it's something I see very often. Kholek is very mad, taking out his rage on the White Lions, and if you're archers on this battlefield, unfortunately, when he's stroking his Forbidden Rod, the Chaos Sorcerer is just not going to allow them to exist. Burning Head is not a nice spell if you're low armor. It's frankly pretty hard to dodge a lot of the time. Even when you notice it in time, they're going to lose about half their HP each time you cast, which means 2 casts should be enough to finish off at least 1 archer unit, if not both. And this is really where the combined arms tactics and the strategy comes into play big time, because the only unit on the battlefield for the High Elves that can win a 1v1 are these Swordmasters of Hoeth, and I'm not sure they even beat Chosen of Khorne all that convincingly either. I think both units will just get absolutely dumpstered. Everything else will get destroyed in a 1v1. So the tar pitting, the focus fire while the archers are still alive, can and will have to do a lot here, because the elite coordinate units are very killy, they don't have shields, they aren't insanely tanky, and the Knights of the Brazen Throne might have slightly blundered there. 1 second, gigantic Soul Quench ripping through the Chosen. Look at that health bar plummet. 20 kills and almost 3,000 damage in a single overcast. Just disgusting. Such an efficient way to deal with those armored berserkers. And talking about that Knights of the Brazen Throne blunder, taking a drag-it-out fight with Silver Helms near spears and in the fire arc of a bunch of different archers with Stormwing floating overhead, maybe not ideal. They are still alive, and Kholek is stomping his way over. That will force the High Elves to retreat with their single entity and their big stuff on that side. At the very least, prevent Eltharion from landing and getting an armor-piercing value into the Skull Crushers, but I'm not sure he wants to land all that much right now. He's having a grand old time on the flank of these Chosen, destroying them with those Soul Quench magic missiles. And here come these Summoners of Rage into the archers, finishing off that unit and looking for something extra special to kill. If they can get us round off on the Silver Helms or on Eltharion the Grim, that would be ideal. But Tequila Sunset is giving Kholek and those Summoners of Rage a wide berth, and I don't blame him. That is a scary center to this Death Star. He'll pick off the Chosen that are kind of isolated out on the flanks if he can, and he notices it there with the White Lion Chariots of Krace and with Eltharion flying his way over. Not sure if he'll go down into melee or maybe drop another Soul Quench. Reaver Archers still getting their focus fire in on the Chosen, who have like 120, 130 armor, but archers always have an AP value, so there will always be damage going their way, no matter how little. What is that black box that keeps appearing? The Burning Head is a pathway to blue screens that some consider unnatural. Whole PC is about to explode, but yeah. Important for Chaos to consolidate their forces here. Elves of Yvresse have done a good job keeping their mobility alive, which means the dual axe infantry need to form up around Kholek. If they're out on the flanks alone, they will die. Easy cycle charging from Stormwing or the White Lion Chariots, Silver Helms, what have you. The only thing that can easily stop that has the speed to stop it are the Knights of the Brazen Throne. But of course, they are starting to drop fairly low here after that initial engagement in the center. Kholek can do it too, to an extent, but he is a single entity. He doesn't have that tying down potential that a full unit of Cav does. And it looks like Eltharion, after casting an Apotheosis on the Swordmasters to keep them in the fight, blending those Chosen of Khorne. Did a really nice play there, actually, with the Eltharion Reaver Archers to overlap the engagement and provide the cushion for the single entity Stormwing to escape. He was tied down and surrounded by those murderous charge Knights of the Brazen Throne, but getting any kind of skirmish Cav, anything with mass that can tie down an enemy Cav unit, usually allows you to push through and escape, and that's what he did there. Herald of the Tempest was called down as well. Summoners of Rage dropping their Chain Lightning on the Silvern Guard. Swordmasters are about 1/3 HP or so. Summoners of Rage are looking pretty healthy right now, but the rest of the Chaos Army is kind of in tatters. Chosen are not long for this world, and in fact, the Forbidden Rod has actually done the majority of the damage to this Chaos Sorcerer, which will make him easy pickings for Stormwing. Another Burning Head should provide that -8 leadership penalty, enough to send those spears scurrying for the hills. And terror routes are going to be important here in the mid and late game as well. We're only 4 minutes in, but with these units losing their martial prowess buff and having been beaten up side down in close quarters, the terror from Kholek and burnt contact effect from Burning Head will cause morale issues on the Elven side. Without Hand of Glory, Eltharion wants no part of a 1v1 with Kholek, not yet anyway. Apotheosis to heal and Fleeing to the Skies will be on the agenda for him. Good target prioritization from Groot and Kholek. Got some good smacks in with Starcrusher on the flank of Stormwing, and he was forced to flee back to the skies there. And we've got a big old fight in the center now. Everything is charging in. Eltharion Reaver Archers, even with a little bit of ammo remaining, feeling like they need to tie down those Summoners of Rage. They're not going to stay in melee for too long there, but any kind of damage you can get right now is good damage. There's one pretty healthy unit of Chosen remaining, but that might be the end of the Chaos Sorcerer. Soul Quench, which is typically not used for single entity sniping, but it does deal a decent chunk of damage, I guess, especially to something like a Chaos Sorcerer. He routes off, and Eltharion will not suffer him to live anymore. He's going to chase him down. Does not want to deal with any more Cascading Fire Cloaks, or especially a Burning Head. That -8 leadership penalty could be the difference between winning or losing if he cast it at the right time. So, goodbye to your head. Goodbye to your butt. You have been snacked upon by a gigantic bird of a feather. They flock together. It doesn't make any sense. I really thought I was cooking there for a second. But the Skull Crushers of Khorne have been chased down by the Eltharion Reaver Archers, which I love how Tequila Sunset is using them. They're such a good unit. They're only like 650 gold. They have the mass, they have the speed, they have the focus fire potential, which isn't crazy, but they will deal decent chunks of damage over time. More than anything, you bring them for the utility. You can just use them in so many different ways. More than anything, help your single entities escape in bad situations, charge things, route them off, run them down to the edges of the map. There's just so many ways you can use them at a relatively cheap price point. As you guys know, in multiplayer, much more so than in campaign, those skirmish troops are typically a very good investment in PvP. Super brave last stand from those Silvern Guard. First took the charge from the Summoners then taking the Chosen straight to the face and a Soul Quench. Probably a little bit of friendly fire from Eltharion too. I think Chosen actually avoided the worst of that. That might have only killed 1 or 2 models, but yeah, the Silver Guard are now breaking off, and this is where the leadership problems are going to start kicking in for the Elves. They have to figure out a way to deal with the Dragon Ogres. That Death Star Kholek and his bodyguards are going to be such a problem, and he really only has scraps, remnants to do so. Eltharion Reavers are a huge deal here because they're the only thing that can stay in the pocket and provide a little bit of cushion for the pushing when it comes to Eltharion and Stormwing, and basically give Kholek something to attack that isn't him. In a straight 1v1, it's going to be a really tall order for Stormwing to deal with the Mountain God, so he's going to deal with everything else that he can. Chosen, run down, rip them apart. Their Reaver Archer is going to be great for that too. That is leaving these archers isolated. Kholek Suneater dropping the Star Crusher, just pancaking some poor elves. They're going to tear her out immediately. Don't blame them at all. Here come the Reaver Archers. Eltharion maybe a little bit slow on the uptake there. This is so dangerous for the elves. But this is where Horse Archers can come into play. Again, they're providing that cushion so that Eltharion isn't immediately smacked in the rear by Star Crusher. Now, with the Herald of the Tempest activated, he needs to get out of here. He will die in like 5-10 seconds flat if Kholek is able to get a couple more attacks in. Yeah, that could have been way, way worse for the Elves of Yvresse. And in fact, the rest of the Chaos Army just routed. Great engagement there. I frankly don't even know how the Summoners of Rage just got finished off there. I guess they're not technically finished off, but they're super low. Skull Crushers of Korn down to 29 HP. They're also gone. Those 3 remaining models are destroyed. And the White Lions, that Cherry unit must be putting in some work that is hard to see from on high, because a lot of Chaos stuff just died in a situation that looked absolutely terrible for the Elves of Yvresse. Great engagement from Tequila Sunset, and frankly, I think it's a good play from Sir Groot as well. I think Chaos played that perfectly right there. And there just were some morale shocks that kicked in, and the Chosen in the corner breaking off now. The Summoners of Rage are not going to come back, and in fact, this is where having that slightly larger army and the cheaper forces with good mobility is going to be really beneficial. Because these Summoners of Rage, once they're gone, they won't be allowed to return, I don't believe anyway. If he has a free Horse Archer unit on this side, or indeed continues to shoot them with the remaining archers right there, they're losing models. They've got 100 HP left. They're not going to make any more impact on this battle. Now, I would have tried to keep those White Lion chariots alive, I think, if possible. It would have been good to have those when Eltharion inevitably has to take this duel, because I do think a smackdown between Kaiju is on the agenda here. 9.5 minutes in, there's almost nothing left for either side. Things are about to get real spicy. Reaver Archers, the millisecond before they routed, finished off the Dragon Ogres. That was really cool. Okay, so Soul Quench, again, not good for killing single entities, especially not armored ones. Maybe gonna do 200, 250 damage a pop. I don't even know how much Winds of Magic he has left. Probably enough for a few more Apotheosis. So he'll be getting some heals in the duel. This is really where you would love to have Hand of Glory. Because, yeah, Tempest Rage, 90 melee attack base, almost 700 weapon strength, and then you're adding on top his bonus versus large, which I think is like 35 for Kholek or something. Means he's hitting at like the cap, basically, the 120 melee attack almost. Yeah, this is going to be brutal. Can Eltharion do it? Can he put some... No, there's no way, dude. I was really excited to see Eltharion and Stormwing make a last stand here, and he'll do so. But Kholek, with Tempest Rage activated, he's just a monster killer. A Kaiju Destroyer. A Gypsy Danger. And there's just nothing that Eltharion could do in a pure 1v1. Maybe if the White Lion Chariots were still alive for that last fight, and maybe if he charges in first, or like baits a charge with Eltharion and then sends in their Reavers. But man, Kholek in that situation is so hard to deal with. He really is hitting close to the melee attack cap when he's up against another monster like Eltharion. And Eltharion has so many other elements of utility. Kholek's he's just pure beatdown for other large targets, and he did a ton of work, that game. So did Eltharion. I love seeing the Soul Quench stuff. That Soul Quench play is not something I see very often. Putting them on the flank of Chosen and blasting them apart with overcast magic missiles was really cool. I love the build here from Chaos. I love seeing those super hyper elite type builds, and then seeing the way that Tequila Sunset played around that and tried to bring it back was also super interesting. I think he played that match very well, and in the late game it just came down to a really interesting 1v1 that Kholek was designed to hard counter in. So hope you all enjoyed that one, and I'll see you all very soon. Peace out.